will now move into our research presentation sessions, where key findings from the PLLACE project will be shared. So after each presentation, there will be a Q&A session. If you have any questions, please raise your hand and our team will bring the microphone to you. We would really appreciate if you could use the microphone so that the questions can be heard and recorded properly by our cameras. So our first research findings presentation is titled Strategies and Challenges in Developing Creative Industries in World Heritage Cities, the Case of Penang, Malaysia. Please welcome Professor Dr. Jin Chan.
Hello. Can you hear me? Well, okay, thank you. Good morning and welcome our honorable guests. I'm not going into the long list, so everyone, you are all VIP in these sessions. And I want to declare I have no match the politicians in terms of public speaking. So you have to bear with me. You have to bear with a boring university professor going through all the data and numbers and text. So thank you very much. Wow. So today, the first thing that I want to do is to sort of like set this particular scenes about what is the real topic that we are looking into. So yeah, we are looking at creative industry. So university class, first thing, definitions. So what is creative industry? So you can see, to put it up, the UK definitions of creative industry, which actually is quite the original, like the government's sponsor movement in this particular term of creative industry. So what you can see is that the use of creativities of the peoples to generate economic activities and jobs, probably built on the branding, the intellectual property right. You can see that our Malaysians' definitions of creative industry, which is also the same, similar. If I read Malay language correctly, I'm supposed to, despite that I've left, I'm not really leaving Malaysia, but I live overseas in the UK for 2 decades, so slightly more than 20 years. So we can see that the definition is the exact, the same, I would say. This is one thing which we also need to look at, is to understand the relationship between creative industry and cultural and heritage sector. They are different, if we can see they are different when we look into the aims of these two sectors, or we look at the funding support that we want to provide, or we look at what kind of skill and training required, or even the policy aims, why governments want to push its culture and heritage sector or the creative industry. Both have slightly different, but both sectors are interrelated, as what we can see from our first three keynote speakers that address this particular topics quite interrelated. So the Europeans take a slightly different approach in creative industry. They combine these two. They combine the culture and creative industry into one umbrella, but they have similar definitions. The creative industry and culture and creative industry build on the cultural value and as well as artistic heritage asset of the community. But it aims to include development, includes productions, disseminations, and preservations of the cultural goods and services as well. They both Europeans or UK or even Malaysia, we value the creative industry not only because of it linked to our culture, our heritage, build on that, but also it generates jobs and also economic activities. You can see from the numbers, I'm not going to read out the number in terms of the gross value added as well as in terms of the job created in both Malaysia and in the UK. You can also notice that the most regions, the most updated data that published by the Department of Statistics Malaysia at the end of last year, 2025, look at both creative and cultural sector. It's slightly different from the overall definitions of the DASA for creative industry in Malaysia, but it combines the cultural sector. UK separate them. So we can see that it's an important economic sector. It is a key for the government to look into how they can grow this particular sector. UK government pay a lot of attention to grow this particular sector because of it is important, it linked to the life and the culture and the heritage. It is also one of the key area of modern consumptions. Modern worlds, young people that get involved in this particular sector want something different. So want different goods, different services. So it's an industry of the future for the UK. So when we talk about creative industry, it covers quite a number of subsectors. Different country have different regions. For example, in Europe, they have slightly different subsectors included in their creative and cultural industry. Okay. So we can see that in the UK, I think IT is one of the key part. The digital elements in the creative sector is become very, very important. Okay. If we look into the data a bit long term, we can see that there is increasing growth of this particular sector that contribute to the economy. It's the same case in Malaysia as well, that we can see continues to grow, but it is in parallel with other sector in Malaysia. So it contributes about 7% of the Malaysia GDP. So it's a very, very large sector. So over the past 8 years, while I was doing research about this particular sector in Penang, what I always heard is that there is no government investment, not enough investment in this particular sector. And particularly, we do not know how big is this particular sector. And today, just last December, our Department of Statistics begin to release this data. What I've shown is the Malaysia data, and I definitely know that we can get the Penang data. So we will be able to justify to the Penang government and the federal government to say that how big this sector and what are the potential of this sector in terms of economy and job, and for the young people to go and to invest in this area. All right. So I want to move a bit about what UK is trying to do as a nation. So the creative industry is one of the key sectors in their industry, in the very, very new industry strategy in the UK. It's focused on a very ambitious goal. They want to become a superpower in the creative industry. One of the areas that creative talents and company want to be based. They want to create they want to cultivate their creativity, they want to create their business and grow their business. This is the aim of the United Kingdom. Of course, they have a couple of key strategies. Digital aspect is one of the key, create tech is one of the key area, and also looking into not only isolating the creative sector, creative industry, but look into how creativity and creative industry can contribute to the development and innovations in other sectors. I came back from Italy, from Napoli, just last week, came back to Penang. I visited a couple of organizations and discussed about what they have done in Napoli. One of the very interesting part is they are combining, they are trying to match making creative worker, creative individual with the big factory, big organization company, to look into how their creative people can help in solving certain problems in other sectors. So the power of bringing your different mindset, different skill, different perspective into other sector of the economy become one of the important effort that they are working on. Okay. So in the UK, how they are going to transform these cross-cutting support to help the growth of the creative economy. So at least are four important aspects. One is accelerations of innovations. We need to think about innovations than just like selling goods. We have to look into how are we going to support creative businesses, not purely on government grant, but on investment. How are we going to prepare the creative enterprise so that they can stand alone to attract investment, to get bank loans, because they have a bankable IP or other type of asset that they can do it. Our bank system, our financial system also needs to rethink about how they are going to support these businesses in this sector. I think this is a very, very important aspect that we have no answer yet. The European and the UK are also doing a lot of research in this area to see how the modern financial institutions best support this slightly different nature of business. So they know how to support the infrastructure, power plant. They know the new way to do PPP. They have a lot of innovations in finance sector, but not quite into how they can support our young and innovative creative businesses. The next one is to look into skill. Skill include that. I think my colleagues are going to talk about it, about management and business skill, or modern skill that required by creative and enterprise, as well as increased trade and export. They put all their energy into how to export their creative goods and businesses. And you can see, I think I have the data about export, isn't it? The UK export of creative goods and services is in terms of billions of pounds. All right. So another one key point before I move back to the key part of Malaysia or Penang is about there is one important strategy that they are looking into. They are not looking into the national creative industry policy only, but also focus on how to develop scattered regional cluster of creative industry. So use this particular strategy in terms of clustering and frontier industry that is going to focus on specific area. This similar concept is in China. 特色小镇 is one of the key Chinese government's concept to develop regional town or smaller city, how to build their competitive advantage and how to build the brand of that particular locations. Another approach, similar approach by the European is the S3. S3 is smart specialization strategy. The European focus on how to encourage innovations and entrepreneurship in a specific area. For example, in Nepal, so they work with the local creative sector and university to understand the strength and the asset in that particular area and which create subsector of creative economy that we have to develop. So I'm running out of time, but I'm still halfway through my slide. So with that, we are interested to know that city and towns such as in Penang, how they're going to build their creative industry. It's different from the nation-based type of very widespread type of policy, but into a small town and nations. Okay. So what have we done? We do a lot of literature review to look into other cities and towns. For example, Jingdezhen in China, they are very successful in terms of the creative industry. They focus on one sector, porcelain. Okay. And we speak to you, a lot of you that we have discussion with, you involved in our interview, focus group, as well as in the workshop and living labs. So I want to give a bit of voice that we have collected. Well, I want to demonstrate and show you what you have told me. Okay, so I want to skip this particular two parts and look into those are the data, those are the people that we spoke to throughout various subsectors. We in this particular focus group interview and workshop, we have spoken to 51 stakeholders in Penang. We also offer you 4 scenarios to consider whether Penang should be just like this. Business as usual, everyone happy, business is going well, or Penang need to concentrate on a single sector, select such as Jingdezhen, look at porcelain and make it big, make it world famous on porcelain. Or we need to look into multiple subsectors such as Nepali that focus on a couple of key sectors that build on the asset and the capability of the creative people in Penang. Or just broad-based, everyone, everything, come and go. Okay. So in our living labs, as some of you have participated in our policy living labs, we have about 300 people visited our living labs, putting comments. We ask people to look into various potential visions for the Penang creative industry, look into what are the policy scenario or the cases, as well as mapping this particular industry. So those are some examples that you were involved. And one key thing that I want to highlight, a lot of you told me that your influence on policy is slightly weak. You have no way to tell the politician what you want. I think this is one of the key, maybe a bit uncomfortable facts, is that the agency of the political agency is unseen or undeveloped in this way. I think this is crucially important because the entire industry depends on very scattered individual, creative, and small businesses. So this particular dialogue will be very, very important. And also there is a tension between creativity and commercializations and innovations, heritage and innovation. Those are the notions that are coming out quite a lot. that people struggle with where should we go. I think I'm not trying to make a judgment here, but I think every concept has a place, has a role to play in the modern society, and it depends very much on how we as Penang people negotiate through it. Okay, so those are some examples of how do you see the competitive advantage of the different sector, which sector have a great potential to grow in a blue area, which sector already growing very, very strong. These are your opinions. I will put it up in our report, and then you can view it in a bit more detail. You also look into various policies which are important for you, getting expand in your business overseas, getting exposure, global branding is one of the key topic being raised, and how are we going ahead with innovations and entrepreneurships. If you look into specific strategy, I think Penang people tell us that they need some sort of institutions that focus on creative industry, focus on how to grow, how to create skill for the people. They feel they have no belonging. If you work primarily on heritage or tourism, you have somewhere to go in Penang. But creative industry in general is a bit not that clear. Okay. Talking about the 4 scenarios, we can see that a lot of people support a slightly multiple approach, multiple subsector approach, focus on a few subsector at the early stage in order to grow them and spill over to other subsector as well as other sector beyond the creative industry. So, before I go into my policy recommendation, which I'm going to go quick, I promise, this is one very important part that we get from our participants is the young people. There are a huge number of young creative people, our friends. They either just graduated, they try to find their space in the creative industry, and they are very energetic. They believe that they can change the whole system. They believe that there is something that they need to work on. I think we need to pay sufficient attention to this group of people so that we prepare our institutions, prepare our support, and work with them to build our future. So what I want to do is I want to give you a shopping list very quickly. I propose that when we look into the visions of creative industry in Penang, we need to think about 6 elements. One is bracing experimental, inspirational type of work that test out, do not afraid of failure. We need to look into how are we going to identify our uniqueness and build our Penang brand. We need to look into creativity and innovation, linking creativity into innovation and commercializations that lead to entrepreneurship development. How are we going to build our skill in entrepreneurship? And I believe that now we have very, very strong digital institutions and support in Penang Institutes and MDAC. 2 best friends here. So this particular area is sort of covered very well in Penang. We also need to, as YB have mentioned, our ministers, to say that creativity comes from the mass, and then we need to link to the mass. And one of the very key aspects I heard from people is we organize a lot of events in Georgetown, in the old town. Hardly anyone coming. They are not coming to our gallery. But what I would say is that if you are shouting to the mountain, mountain, please come, and then the mountain is not moving, you have to go to the mountain. You have to go to the population area. Georgetown used to be the population area. Now, of course, it's a mixture of population and tourism, but the population center moved beyond Georgetown. And I think this is one of the very key important aspects. And internationalizations, cross-sectorial collaborations are also very important. Another shopping list would be the detail of the potential strategy that we can do. The first is adopt this concept of smart specializations. What are the subsectors that are good for Penang, and focus and develop that at an early stage. Talent is extremely important, and I have very little knowledge, and I see quite little in terms of how Penang is going to attract talent, to retain talent, to train talents, and to build the area as the best place for new talents to come in and to grow their creativities, their work, as well as their business. The next is skill will be covered by the next presentations, and also look into innovations and IP generation activities. Digitalizations, we are very familiar with. Funding and investment, I spoke about that. And cross-sectorial collaborations and internationalizations. This is everything about my presentations. Are a bit overshoot in terms of time, and then we are quite late up. I don't want to waste any further time. Shall we Q&A? Questions?
I want your slide.
Sure. We will hear a bit of feedback from you and prepare a report and the slide and offer to everyone. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Professor Jinchan. We will now move on to the next presentation, where research findings on upskilling within Penang's creative workforce will be presented. Please welcome Dr. Athena Petro and Dr. Lai Wan Ting.
Hello. Thank you everyone for coming to our final conference today. So my name is Athena Petro, and with Dr. Lai Wan Ting from University of Science Malaysia, we're going to present the findings on the topic of upskilling Penang's creative workers. And we have been supported in this work by our research assistants, Lee Chok Wei Chuan and Chan Sui Juan, also from USM. Okay, so this is working. So firstly, we would like to discuss why we have looked into upskilling. Why is it a topic that was included in the project aims? And as you all know, and as we have observed in our trips to Penang, I think this is my 6th trip over the years, there are many talented creative workers in Penang in various areas of creative practice, whether traditional, contemporary creative arts, or more recently digital arts. So there is a lot of talent in Penang. But like many creative workers and entrepreneurs worldwide, some of them, they may be very, let's say they may have high level of expertise in their own area of creative practice, but perhaps they may be lacking the skills required to set up their own business, to develop an entrepreneurial mindset, and occupy themselves with the more commercial aspects of their work, because there's often also this distinction between art and commerce, whether they can go together, and whether the identity of an artist or an artisan can coexist in the same person with the identity of the entrepreneur. So we wanted to explore the level of skills that creative entrepreneurs in Penang already have when it comes to entrepreneurship, and how they could be supported further, what modes of training would support them most to develop the skills they need not to do their creative practice, which they already know how to make batik, how to paint, etc., but in order to run their own business and say generate a sufficient income for their livelihood. So we had, say, in our research journey, 3 strands of data collection. So first, we had a number of interviews with creative entrepreneurs from different areas, whether they work in, some of them worked in batik, fashion design, we had wood carvers, or also people from performing arts, and they shared with us their creative occupation and challenges they have faced, and explained how they developed the skills they needed as they transitioned to working as freelancers and self-employed. We also interviewed 9 academics working in higher education institutions in Penang. Some of them were also practitioners, they had a dual role. And again, they shared with us how their students, so students doing art degrees or applied arts degrees, how they are prepared for employment and potentially for entrepreneurship after graduation. So again, we didn't ask them how they teach them the artistic skills, but how and to what extent they are taught business and entrepreneurship skills in their program. So following this, we also ran a survey, quantitative data collection, where we got responses from 166 respondents on the theme of skills and their training needs. And we also participated, we had our own section in the Living Lab, the curriculum co-creation Living Lab last August in Digital Penang, that I believe some of you have also attended. So using the data from our research, we developed, in collaboration with our trainers, of course, 4 structured training programs that Wan Teng will discuss in more detail with you later. So that was the, say, the practical outcome of our research, the training programs. Okay, so for this, so just to give you a bit of a snapshot on the nature of our respondents from the survey. So the sample represented different subsectors. It was quite comprehensive in that sense, mostly from visual arts and performing arts, but then we had quite a lot of people from digital creative arts, such as, I think some included also AI and virtual reality work, and also from crafts. So it's a combination of more contemporary and more traditional forms. Other subsectors were a smaller proportion of our sample. And we observed that the sample skews quite young. So for most of them, about 62%, they've been running their own independent business, independent venture for less than 5 years. Because there's an issue of attrition in the creative industries. Usually many businesses unfortunately fail in the first 5 years. So it was quite difficult to find those more established entrepreneurs. So it's a young sample also in terms of age. Sorry. So we have, in terms of gender, majority were female. We got more responses from women. And in terms of ethnicity, again, about a bit more than a third from the Malay community, 57% Chinese community, and 5% from Indian communities. Smaller proportion was mixed heritage or did not reply to this question. So these are some of our demographics. And yeah, we can move on to the slide before, please. Thank you. So the clicker is malfunctioning a bit for me. So you can check it. So we wanted to know how they would prefer to learn, how they like to learn, what would be useful in them for managing their business. And what emerged is importance in the human dimension. So about 29% mentioned they would like to have a mentor that would give them advice. On the other hand, there is a lot of self-initiative. So the second most popular option is that they would like to study online at their own pace. That better matches with their time demands and their lifestyles. Nowadays, many also ask AI on business-related questions online. And attending seminar and workshops was the third most popular option. Not many like reading business books, and to be honest, having taught and seen many business books, perhaps that's a wise choice that they don't really like using them. Next slide, please. Okay, and we wanted to identify what are the business skills they consider more useful, what they would be very interested to learn about. So starting from the color blue signifies very high interest in learning about a skill, and orange interested. So if we combine them, we can see there is a lot of interest in categories such as networking, accessing finance, negotiation skills, and from some skills perhaps relatively less popular, such as knowing about the legal and business regulations. So having that data completed around September 25, but in August we also collected living lab data. And we can see some snapshot also here from the survey that in terms of marketing and their business, they consider social media marketing as the most important skill to learn about, 72%. Again, we have the point on mentoring. And we also saw that about half of them wanted to participate in the training, and in fact, quite a lot of them did. If we move to the next slide, I'll make the comment about intellectual property here. So although in the survey there was not that high interest in learning about intellectual property, but we saw in the Living Lab that quite a lot of the participants noticed that there is a gap on learning about intellectual property regulations, copyright, design rights, and so on. So this is something that was emphasized and included in one of our training sessions. And in the Living Lab, we also asked them about learning outcomes that they would be interested in other three categories: on marketing and commercialization, internationalization of their products and services, and funding and negotiations. So these four themes map out quite well to our training sessions that Wan Teng will now share more with you on what happened to the training sessions and how the team worked with the trainers to deliver training. Thank you, and Wan Teng will continue.
Moving on to the most exciting parts, which were the trainings conducted in November 2025 to this year, January. Who were you attended the training? Can you kindly raise your hand? All right, quite a few of you, a lot of you. You're still with me, thank you. So I'd like to summarize that in 4 trainings, we have a total of 95 total participants. Some repeated, attended 4 trainings, but some may take up 1 or 2 trainings. So across 4 specializations, and in average around 25 or 20 to 25 participants for each training. Next. So let me summarize what's the impact of each training. For the first training, from fundraising to financing, building your tailored funding strategy. Deliver clear and meaningful impact on participants' capabilities and confidence. Those are the feedbacks that we received from participants. Participants highlighted that the pitch session was particularly transformative, providing a rare opportunity to test ideas in supporting small group setting while receiving direct actionable feedback, something often missing in conventional training environments. What is most important or most difficult, challenging is the program is also shifted mindsets, encouraging participants to view their creative work through a strategic business lens and to better understand how funding mechanisms align with different stages of growth. Participants reported gaining greater clarity and decision-making confidence, particularly in identifying the most suitable funding criteria and pathway for early-stage ventures, a critical step towards building sustainable creative businesses. Next, the storytelling. Those 4 trainings were full day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And this training, the storytelling, demonstrated significant impact in strengthening participants' communications and confidence, 2 critical skills for success in the creative economy. So participants emphasized that the live coaching element was particularly impactful, providing personalized practical feedback that directly supported their self-improvement and boosted their confidence in real time. The training also enabled participants to transform a key weakness into a strength, equipping them with the ability to craft compelling narratives that resonate with wider audience, an essential capability for visibility, branding, and growth. And next, our third session developed strong impact in helping participants translate creative and cultural value into viable market offerings. Participants highlighted the cultural mode canvas as a powerful and practical tool, enabling them to clearly identify and articulate the unique elements that differentiate their creative practice and essential step in building sustainable and competitive creative businesses. What is equally important was the practical, real-world knowledge shared by experienced industry practitioners, which participants found highly valuable in bridging theory with application, equipping them with actionable insights to move their ideas to work forward with greater clarity and confidence. And the last training, intellectual property, protecting your creative works. Training delivered critical impact in bridging the gap between creativity and commercial sustainability. Participants emphasized that the use of practical, real-world examples make complex IP concepts highly accessible, enabling them to clearly understand how protection mechanisms can be applied directly to their own creative outputs. I need to mention this. Most importantly, participants reported a significant expansion in their understanding of how to move from creativity to currency, gaining the knowledge and confidence to protect diverse forms of creative work, including textiles and design, and to position these assets as viable economic resources. How do I end this presentation, our presentation? We have walked you through our research process. And now, as a concluding remark, today, we have identified the need to institutionalize training in Penang's creative ecosystems. Feedback from our research journey and the training suggests that there is a need to institutionalize more structured training in Penang's creative ecosystem. Developing a learning community and providing opportunities for mentoring would further support creative workers to develop entrepreneurial skills. Potentially, this support could be coordinated through an incubator model. With this, we end the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. So I believe we don't have the Q&A session anymore, is it? Okay, is there any questions for both of our researchers that you would like to? Yes, oh yeah. Where is the representation? Participation of or representation? Students from USM.
Thank you for the question. So in the survey, because it was anonymized, we had a question on what proportion were students, but we did not ask them what university they were studying. Some generally in the program.
Non-representation from either one Indian or one Malaysian.
You mean in this talk today?
USS is cradle of Britain. Why is this not correct?
We are representing USF too, and we have students who participated our training. And if you would like to, may I know what are you wishing to know more?
There have been several programs in Penang that has totally invited USF to participate, and total lack of participation from the students of USF studying performing arts and visual arts. Why is that?
I will convey the message to
No,
School of the
please
Arts.
do, because I spoke to all 7 professors and the dean, and I find it shocking that USM don't send the students out.
School of Arts, actually, and I think it was Dean of School of Arts, Dr. Adriana, and she mentioned they have some programs on student entrepreneurship that they do, like a competition on setting up a business or a pop-up market in USM. But, so these were organized by the university, but I'm not really familiar with programs outside USM, I'm afraid.
Thank you. Okay, I hope. Right, if there's no more questions, we have one though.
Thank you. It's more of an observation as well as a question. In terms of the way the training labs were constructed, in terms of the themes, in terms of the overall framework. Like it or not, and it is not only with this project, with everything that goes on. Everything is done within the existing framework of a capitalist society. And therefore, I find it very disturbing, and I've raised it repeatedly in every of the training workshop. How come the focus is on how can we do better? How can we get funds within the capitalist framework? Well, my question is that it doesn't create space nor possibilities for people to work, to engage themselves, to co-create an alternative, a non-capitalist, but a very much community, people-oriented economy. There was no discussion of that. And there was a great disappointment for me for a big international project like that continues to promote the collaboration and the development of a capitalist economy, which we all know it is not viable at the end of the day, especially for people on the ground, for the masses. That's my overall comment. And it would have been really good to see the framework of it as a lab, that you really engage people to co-create alternative possibilities, whether in the framework of the way you conduct your research or in actually implementing findings from your research in terms of providing training. Thank you. Just a humble observation, and I guess you.
Thank you, Mr. Rayson. So it was indeed a challenge in the project on how to balance. Hear us me? Yes, so it was indeed a challenge for the project and the creative industries that, as you mentioned, many people do not even like using the term creative industries because it fits more with the capitalist mindset. And it's always a challenge to balance the artistic identity, the community side, and on the other hand, the market demands, which unfortunately remains a challenge for many workers, because unless one could conceive of alternative economic futures that go perhaps beyond the scope of our project, and we still face the challenge that in the current system, creative workers need to find some way to make a living from their art now. But hopefully that's something we could consider in future work, that finding this balance better. And we had a very nice quote from one of our interviewees that stuck out to me, that he was advised by his mentor that you cannot be both an artist and then businessman, you have to choose. So that indeed remains very key challenge. Thank you for the comment.
Lian, can you keep it short and sweet? Thank you.
A humble proposal, even if it's remedial, that you could actually incorporate some real case studies of the alternatives that people are struggling on the ground, to provide that there are people who are really working on alternatives on the ground, and they may not be big, successful, impactful projects, but really, really very sincere initiatives on the ground, how they're actually creating and co-creating to make things possible, despite the positivist, materialistic, capitalist approach, even in the kind of research that talks about wanting to bring change.
I also thanks Lian for joining all for our trainings fully and actively, joining the discussions. Thanks for today's comment, point taken, and also respect your perspective, which is very valid. I do also agree that we also need to include others' concerns of others, creative workers who may have different, who may agree or find that these trainings are truly impactful and useful for them too. Thank you.
Right, due to short of
Last
time.
question.
We are really in short of
Okay,
time right
I'm
now.
so sorry. So
could we
you can
please
engage.
get the questions in the outside during networking? I'm so sorry. Now, in our, thank you, Dr. Lai, and thank you, Dr. Kicho. Now, I understand we included coffee break in our program, but due to short of time, we won't be able to have that. But rest assured, we have coffee and tea outside available throughout the conference. Feel free to get a quick bite at your own convenience, all right? So now let's move on to the next presentation. They shift the focus towards how traditional industries are evolving within the creative economy. Please welcome Dr. Toh Tiong Chuan and Mr. Cham Kai Wen, who will be presenting on modern creative economy transformation of traditional industries.
Okay, I won't tell the whole story because although we have 15 case study here, but only a brief background about what we do. About our methodology, we have interviewing 15 innovators for our case study. There were two main themes we want to find out. First, their journey, how they use dynamic capabilities to turn heritage into innovation. We'll see how they found, they took, and changed their opportunity. And second, the practical part, how they manage their resource, skill, and people to bring the project to life. Our goal is to study Penang's traditional trades. We are looking at how they balance heritage with business in today's creative market. There are two main reasons we doing this. We see these traditional industries are struggling because of the modern economies, but we also see resilient business. Those they survive by rebranding themselves through creative strategy and partnership. So, how do they do it? That's what we were trying to find out. We are looking to success story that use what we call hybrid strategy. in the context of Penang's business works. We want to see how they combine the old and the new to stay competitive. Yeah, in this study, we have looking at all kinds of traditional business. For example, food and drink, like your favorite local coffee or roadside food. And next is the traditional pastries. I think of those famous biscuit shops we all know. And we are also looking for handcrafts like wood cutting. And they were traditional hobbies and lifestyle. This included things people do so fun or old school habits. And also finally art and culture. Yeah, this is our look at who we were actually studying. We have picked cases from two sides. On one side, we have traditional family business that have been around for generations and are now transforming. And the other side, we have new entrepreneurs who are using traditional skill to start something fresh in today's creative economy. And at this point, I'd like to bring in Mr. Chang, our research assistant, to explain the detail of our fieldwork. He's the first-hand experience engaging with the traditional enterprise. No, Mr. Chang.
Testing. Good morning, everyone. I am Kaiwan, and I am a research assistant of Dr. To. So now I will present our interview process. So first of all, I will discuss with my supervisor, and we will choose the relevant relevant business. After that, we just contact them and get some contact information and ask if they are willing to join. And after that, we have interviewed the selected participant, and we will write down the interview content. And last, I will write down the personal notes and add as appendix. So this is some picture of our selected participant. So we can see this one. We can see this one is we call 35X Custom Workshop. And after that, we have interviewed Jonathan Yuen Jewelry. And after that, we also have interviewed Fu Ming Incense. Three of these selected participants are related to the handicraft. So the key findings from the interviews have three. So first, we saw they are well known in their field, and after that, they have good skill, and they are very known in their own community. But some participants, although they have the good skill, but they are still cannot grow their business. So what the reason of it? So in my view is the possible reason is the language and the customer group may be the more important in this case. So we can see other examples, such like the Van Hin and the Jonathan Yuen. They are reach more English-speaking customers. So such like Van Hin, they are build up their own website in English, so they can reach the English-speaking customer groups. So like the Jonathan, they are mainly serve English-speaking customers also. So, but another selected participant, their challenge is they are mainly communicate in Chinese group. Although there are good skills, such like just now I say, but they are strong within their own community, but mostly only reach people in their own community and cannot reach other customers. So now I will pass back the mic to my supervisor, Dr. To. Thank you.
Okay, our study investigate this transition through 4 key areas. inclusivity, innovation, growth, and sustainability. For inclusivity, moving from one-man show to integrate teamwork and share labor. Innovation, bringing creative into the business logic and how they operate day to day. And growth, increasing both their culture and value and their social influence. And sustainability, focusing on long-term survival, how they pass the torch to the next generation while staying rooted in Penang's culture. Okay, what is the contribution? A new tool. Our four-step model isn't just for academic, but it's a practical guide to help us to see what traditional business are actually ready to transform. And this is the real story, real data. We are providing the actual evidence need to understand Penang unique scenes, even the small guy in heritage zone. Yeah. And we are still in progress to combine the data from the individual report. So I will not share this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. To and Mr. Cham. We shall skip the Q&A session. So for those who have questions, please, you may ask our researchers during the networking session outside at the area. So now we will move on to our final presentation, which explores the application of the Living Lab approach within the creative economy. This presentation will be delivered by Dr. Katharina De Vita. As mentioned earlier, Dr. Katharina is unable to be with us in person today and has prepared a recorded presentation. Please direct your attention to the screen. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to present to you some findings from our Living Lab that we've run last year in August. So I will be talking about the application of this particular method in the creative economy. A Living Lab is actually a widely used approach in Europe and in a variety of sectors, but we have not been able to identify any such method or approach being utilized in the creative sector, and especially not in Malaysia. So this is a first insight into using this approach in a completely different context. So I'm really delighted to talk to you about this in the next 10 minutes. I will introduce you to the Penang Living Lab for those of you who haven't been attending the Living Lab back in August last year. I will share some insights that emerged from the businesses that have engaged in the Living Lab and also the impact it has had on those participating. I will share some reflections from the businesses as well as from our facilitators to explain what we think has worked really well and areas that can be improved going forward. So to begin with, as an academic, of course, we like a good definition. I've put one here on the slide, which is rather long, but what I've highlighted is the collaborative part of a Living Lab. So it's a physical space in most instances where different stakeholders are collaborating for the creation of prototypes, for validating them, for testing new technologies, and doing that in a real-life context. For those of you who haven't been to our Living Lab back in August, I'm sharing a very brief video that gives you a quick insight. We've had during that week 300 visitors, 25 speakers that have delivered insights into the creative sector and entrepreneurship, which really helped drawing an audience into the space. And we've run our evening panels around 6 different themes that were relevant to the sector. And we had about 150 co-creators, so people from the public or fellow creative workers that have engaged in the co-creation process, or have looked at the prototypes, have interacted with them, have tested them, and have left feedback so that companies could actually consider integrating those insights into the development process. We were very fortunate to have 8 businesses participating, a variety of different businesses, and they've also tackled a variety of different challenges and questions that they've brought to the Living Lab. So the primary objectives for us was to support those 8 creative businesses in developing their innovation capabilities, but also to co-create insights that could inform training provision and policy priorities. So the Living Lab really acted both as a research intervention and as a capacity building exercise within the regional creative sector. So let me share with you the question that we've asked businesses to begin with, and that's, why are you interested in engaging in the Penang Living Lab? And that question was asked to all 8 businesses in terms of what's their main motivation. And you can see here from this figure, it shows that there's not just one reason, but several different motivations. And the top 5 highlighted here on the top part of the slide, including for them to gain exposure and publicity. So it's of course a way for us help them promote their business and their products. But not only that, for them it was also really about understanding user needs or customer needs. Do they really develop products or technologies that align with the needs and interests of those customers? And they wanted to understand this in more detail. Some businesses also highlighted that they are participating because they wanted to see if the Living Lab method in itself is something that could be useful in a more open innovation approach to draw in different feedback and input from a greater variety of stakeholders. So really opening up the innovation process to others. Is that working as a method? And then a couple of businesses identified the idea that they would like to test their product in real world conditions. So if it's a technology, not under laboratory conditions, but really putting it out there and seeing how it works when real people interact with those technologies and what happens. And then ultimately also to improve an existing product, technology or service. So these were some of the top reasons why businesses said they were interested in participating. So whilst businesses also provide specific objectives, they also often receive feedback and input on aspects they have not asked for. So we wanted to know what the impact of the Living Lab has been on a number of different areas when it comes to organizational decision making. And you can see those listed here from top to bottom, starting with those that are on average not as important or significant in terms of impact. And we highlighted again at the bottom the top 5 that evidence why businesses or what the organizational decision making has been where most impact was recorded. The most important one right at the bottom is around experimentation and testing. So companies wanted to try out, test new ideas before fully committing to them. Then the target customer and market segment, so the type of customer the businesses are focusing on or trying to sell to. Marketing channels, how and where a business promotes their business, for example, social media, word of mouth, email, websites. And then also the use of customer feedback in the decision making. So how customer or user feedback shape what the businesses is changing or improving. And the 5th one is around the value proposition and messaging. So how do you explain the value or the benefits of your product or service to your customers? And these 5 areas were on average scored the highest in terms of impact on organizational decision making, which I think is really interesting. And 5 out of 8 participating businesses also reported that certain decisions would have been unlikely or very unlikely without participating in the Living Lab. So in other words, we've opened up new areas, new insights that maybe those businesses would not have thought of or prioritized in the same way. Haven't we been able to deliver those insights through the Living Lab? So it really suggests that the Living Lab can act as a catalyst for strategic reflection and change, which I think particularly for SMEs that may have limited access to structured innovation support is quite important. So it reinforces the importance of external perspectives in shaping innovation trajectories. We also asked businesses to tell us to what extent participating in the Living Lab has had a positive impact on their business overall. And we can see that whilst the businesses reported varying degrees of positive impact, 3 businesses reported a very large impact, 2 businesses reported a large impact, and 3 businesses even reported some impact. So even moderate impact is significant in the creative economy, where innovation processes are more often incremental and relational. So the results really suggest that there can be both tangible and intangible value, including confidence building, validation of ideas, and identification of new opportunities emerging through a Living Lab approach. So what has worked well and what could be improved in the Living Lab? And we have asked that question to those 8 participating companies. In terms of what worked well, they really appreciated the direct feedback from users, which helped refine products and services. They had also access to expert advice and peer learning, so they could interact with other creative workers as part of this pop-up Living Lab week. And there was also a strong professional organization of the event. So we supported them on that journey from the start, where we defined the question that they could bring to the Living Lab, right through to the development of the material to gather input, and then to disseminating that feedback to those companies. There was opportunities for networking and ecosystem visibility that allowed those businesses to engage with one another, and support for innovation and digital transformation in particular that was praised as part of this approach. Now, the areas for improvement were also highlighted. Some businesses have mentioned they would have liked to see a strong operational support for participating businesses. There's also something around accessibility considerations in relation to location and logistics. So being on the top floor rather than on the ground floor could create a barrier to engagement for people. There's also a demand for more sustained mentoring beyond the event itself. So whilst we have focused on an intervention that was a week long, there were businesses that would have liked to see a more long-term interaction and support throughout that process. So these findings really highlight the importance of designing Living Labs not only as events, but really as ongoing innovation processes. When speaking to the facilitators that have been the link and the bridge between our co-creators, so people from the public, and our businesses, we also identified a number of design principles that have enabled success of this Living Lab. First, a strong thematic program really helped attract participants and create a shared focus. It really brought in a diverse audience each evening that could share some of their experiences and also contribute to the co-creation process. Second, accessible co-creation tools really allowed for meaningful participation. So it had to be simple, visual, intuitive, not complex, and sometimes rather basic and not overloading with information. So we use dot voting, sticky notes, interactive displays, keeping it really simple to allow for accessible ways for people to engage. And then third, the real-world experimentation that allowed participants to interact directly with prototypes and materials. We wanted them to test them, to try them, to touch them, which is very different to an exhibition. And fourth, facilitation played a critical role really in encouraging dialogue and capturing insights. We're not running a survey, we're not asking people to complete a questionnaire, and it's not just observations, it's in the interaction between facilitator and co-creator where the value lies. So it's absolutely critical that our facilitators are really well trained, are very open and also prompt co-creators to share their observations and insights with us. The practical lessons learned from us are that the location and accessibility really matters. So we need to think about where's high footfall and maybe where can we draw people in without creating any barriers by being, for example, on the top floor. The facilitators, as I said, they play an essential role to encourage meaningful participation. They capture insights systematically. And the scale should be manageable. So having too many businesses can limit the amount of feedback that each of them receives. We also think interactive experiences are more effective than passive displays in encouraging participation, and feedback must be really intuitive, visually engaging in a public setting. And the prototypes ultimately need to be sufficiently developed to enable useful input from participants. Because if they're at a very early stage and they're just a mock-up and maybe don't display the full functions, it's really difficult to extract meaningful feedback that businesses can act on. So these lessons contribute to a growing understanding, of course, of how living labs can be adapted for creative economy context, and specifically for those that are running as a pop-up, so as a temporary living lab. So overall, and you can see from these amazing pictures, I think the Living Lab has been a great success. The format demonstrated strong potential as a flexible and resource-efficient approach. And I would like to thank everyone that has been contributing to making this a success. It enables rapid engagement with stakeholders, and the core principles of a Living Lab method had been embedded in the way we've brought it to life. And for regions seeking to strengthen creative ecosystems, this pop-up format may provide a practical entry into the Living Lab practice. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Dr. Vita. So we now arrive at a key segment of today's program, the panel discussion on the future of Penang's creative industries. I would like to invite Dr. Lai Wan Ting to take the stage as the moderator.
In the middle, who work closely with branding and creative strategy. Jong-sek, who has been deeply involved in ecosystem development. On my very left, Kevin from MDEC, bringing in the policy and national perspective. Vian, who bridge legal strategy and creative industries. And Elaine, who brings a strong voice from the arts and curation space. Thank you all for being here. Just a quick note, we will go through 3 rounds, and I will gently interrupt very nicely, just to make sure we hear from everyone. Let's start from something quite practical, skills. We have spent a bit of time in a place working with our creative practitioners on the ground. From your experience, what are some of the skill gaps that really stood out to you? I'd like to pose this question to Jonathan, Venus, and Elaine.
Hello, good morning, and also thank you everyone for supporting the PLLACE final conference. So with regards to, my name is Jong Seng, call me Seng, I'm from Digital Penang. With regards to the question in terms of skill gaps, I think from the training session that was conducted, I think one of the, and also the living labs, I think what I find is that we need to find more take the bigger risk of experimentation. So we are still very much, I feel that the approach towards whether building business or creating products and things like that are still very traditional, very not willing to take the risk. So I think one of the findings that was presented by Prof. Jin Chan in terms of experimentation is something that all creative workers, whether you're running as a business or even you are expressing it through pure social initiative, experimentation is very important to create the significant impact and differentiation.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Or almost good afternoon. Good to see some old friends here and some of the students that participate in the workshop. And to answer to that, I think I identified 2 key points. The first one is not that Penang is lack of the creative talent. It's more like the translation from idea to the narrative, right? There are actually a gap there through the workshop that I conducted. And another thing is more like how they know what to do and they are doing great, but how they deliver, what they do and why it matters. So that's the gap that I see and identified through the workshop. But to add on one point, I think it takes practice and also knowledge accessibility as well. Like we need to expose more experience and it really takes practice to make it great. So yeah, that's my sharing.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Elaine. I so-called myself as an artist before I joined this group. Now I can call myself an entrepreneur because I need to change my mindset. From the gaps I can see is a mindset. As an artist, we live in our world, and if you walk out to our outside world, we need to have the business mind. So that's why we need to change our mindset. So if you still live in the artist world, you were struggling with the pricing, the marketing, SWOT, and also the management part. So we need to walk out and see the world change with the chaos. Yeah, back to you.
Excellent. So I am curious. Is there potential for something like a learning community as proposed by the work package 3 skill gaps, upskilling workers, creative workers to grow from this?
Okay, I believe many of my interactions with organizers of PLLACE as well as some artists agree. I think Penang to grow differentiated is that I think one of the key things also within the community is the artistic community needs to also self-organize better. Right? They need to come together not only as a group that share the same passion, but organize together. Because one of the things that, especially in my funding session, the training session, is that they find it very difficult to raise funding, which is true. And it's also true for many other non-creative ventures as well as non-creative businesses. Funding today is not very easy to get, even though there are funds available. Because the thing is that people who are funding are looking for better quality things so far. Right? And the world is borderless, so they could fund things that are outside the country, outside the state, and things like that as well. So you have to understand that the context of community coming together, doing things together, you have to do something that is beyond what you traditionally do, beyond what you traditionally approach, and go beyond the experimentation we discovered in the second training, which is do things that are different and dare to do things that are better. Right? And you can also involve people that are not in the same practicing art field. Say maybe if you're in books, can you combine with somebody who does painting and do something together? Example like that, and do something of a bigger quality, right? So I even shared in my presentation also about in Singapore they have a museum of high school. So those who attended my training, you probably call that as well. So do something that is also up to date, especially up to date with what the new generation, the young people want. Right, I'm in my 50s, but do I still want to sell ideas? Do I still want to sell approaches? Do I still want to sell the type of arts that only 50-year-old people know how to appreciate? No, 50-year-old are not the people that's going to buy from you, that's not going to support you, that's not going to contribute to you. No, it's the young generation. So you have to do something that what the young generation wants, and that's how we can also bring in the long-term sustainable support, whether as a social support or whether as a business support. Right?
I think with PLLACE having this initiative and the workshop is good, but next step is if we're gonna keep this community that we have established alive, what would be the common value or impact that this group of people really see and drive together? I mean, I have the opportunity to work in Penang for the creative industry as well, like at early stage with Joe for Georgetown Festival. I mean, from there until today, we still have Georgetown Festival going on. Besides that community, we have like Himbas, those are the creative and art community. What keep these people together and then bring forward? I think that's important because it's very challenging for putting creative and artists together. Yeah, I believe all of you, if you're from the industry, you know, because everyone would think that, they are the best, right? So how you can put them together, but I believe it's not just about expression, it's about how you actually engage as a creative as well. There are other stakeholders that involve policy maker, government, even IP expert as well. How we actually work together as a community. That would be a question before we actually can form that and bring it forward.
Agree with you all. How to put an artist and creative together? Okay, when an artist is hungry, then you can put the creative together. Okay, because artists have their own characters, so it's very difficult to deal with artists actually. So I'm an artist before, but I'm still hungry. That's why I turned myself to be an entrepreneur. So to be general, to say the world is changing. How to build a community? So as an artist, you are working alone is very slow. You need to build a community. So like me, myself, last year we have run the curate exhibition. So from the exhibition, I put all artists together and I built a community. So my community, I grow from zero, from myself, alone, solo. And now I have a community artists around 30, and also the well-known artists, we have around 15. So I keep on going. So this is a community we can build together. Back to you.
That's really helpful because it grounds us in what's actually happening on the ground. But of course, we also need to think about priorities at a bigger level. So questions to Kevin and Bjorn. If we are being realistic and we can't do everything at once, what are maybe one or two key areas Penang should really focus on in the next 5 years for creative industries? Where would you put your energy first? Bjorn and Kevin?
You got prepared answers, right? Okay, first of all, I want to thank Projin, Dr. Lai, Jiawei, from the whole team for inviting MDEC to be a part of this. For those that know me, I see a lot of familiar faces, but for those of you who don't know me, I'm Aziz Kevin. Quite often the question is, do we call you Aziz or do we call you Kevin? Response is depends on the time of the day. Right now, let's just go with Kevin. So I am the head of the Northern Region for MDAC, and to respond to that, I know we are the ones holding you back from lunch, so I will keep my responses as succinct as possible. I'll give you three, right, in terms of priority. First one is definitely go digital, and I'm not saying that because I'm with MDAC. There is a huge global demand going on at this point. I'm sure at least, 70-80% of us in this room right now has Netflix. Netflix last year or the year before committed 11 billion USD to animated content alone. Why are we not part of that conversation? Why are we not selling to Netflix? Right? K-pop seems to be like the largest craze that's going on right now. Every kid knows the song. It's ridiculous. Why are we not part of that conversation? There's obviously global demand, right? And that's one end. Two is, there is that ability to scale. Quite often, what I hear from Penang artists, regardless of what nature, KL market lah, Penang too small lah, cannot sell. Hello, the global market is your oyster. Why are you thinking so small? Why are you just wanting to sell to Penang and to KL? You're not selling nasi lemak. You're selling art. You're selling your IPs. You're selling your services. You're selling your solutions. Work with global clients who are not as kiam-siap as Penang customers. Right? You know how painful it can be. Right? Just now YD mentioned. Second, and this is something that we cannot run away from, I want to go back to culture heritage in terms of priority. And we're already doing a lot of that. The challenge is, again, taking away from what YBC has mentioned earlier, how do we curate this as a content? As a heritage culture, as a content that can sell not just $1 or $2, like the I Heart Penang nonsense that we see on Armenian Street. No, how do we sell $100, $1,000, $2,000 items, right? Again, alluding to what YB has mentioned. Penang has been known for a place cheap and good for 60 years. How do we change that mindset? Unfortunately, YB Wong is not here. I never wanted to put him on the spot. But the challenge with what we have as an island, okay, mainland taking into consideration, as an island, there is a carrying capacity, right? Just like Singapore and Hong Kong. The only thing that millions of tourists coming in here contribute to is traffic jam, right? That's true, right? When you have them going around taking pictures in front of war-torn buildings and murals, it contributes how much? 0 to our GDP. Yeah, you have the occasional char kway teow and your chendol and maybe the trishaw ride, and they stay at the $30 Chulia Street Hotel. We don't really make much. On average, and this is data from, but data from MasterCard actually stated that an average spending per tourist for Penang is only 1,000 ringgit. What nonsense is that? Can we not have higher value ticket items? So that's the second one. Third one, again, going back to what YDC has said, we didn't plan anything, but whatever he was talking about kind of resonated, is design. Design need not necessarily be limited to arts and graphics alone, right? Penang is known for being a semiconductor hub. I'm talking about industrial design. If any of you are familiar with manufacturing, precision tooling and all that, if you see some of the stuff that our guys produce, they typically look like really large toasters. They're really, really ugly. But it's based on functionality, right? But nobody really looks at aesthetics. Why can't we make our machines look better? Maybe that might command a higher price. But that's just one example. But I'll just keep it for now, and I pass on to our lawyer friend.
Okay, thank you, Aziz. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I have to thank PLLACE for inviting me. I think this has always been one of my pet topic, and so grateful that you all give the stage to talk. Okay, but let me be clear. Let me be the bad guy. okay, a little bit bad guy because through this PLLACE project, the engagement that we have, the talk that the discussion that we had so far, there's one elephant in the room, right? Elephant in the room is that the major problem that the stakeholders have in creative industry is they don't know who to talk to, right? If you look at the big picture, right? If you look at, okay, let me talk about structural things. You try to Google and find who in Malaysia, who supervises creative industry? Who? Right? Of course, so grateful that we now have MDEC with us. We now have some certain government agencies with us. But there's some missing puzzle here. There's my creative venture, right? My creative venture. If you read internet news, I know a lot of people now no longer read print news, is that the past 2 months or so, actually there are a lot of development regarding creative industry. Okay? First, I think in March, PLLACE announced that they are going to restructure creative industry in Malaysia, okay, and place emphasis on creative industry in the midst of global energy crisis. I don't know why, maybe because creative industry doesn't need petrol. Okay, that's why that's first thing. For the first time, as far as I can recall, PLLACE personally stressed that we need creative industry to drive our economy. Okay, then I think last week, Fahmi, okay, Information Minister, he made it clearer, clarified a bit, saying that they are going to form an Orange Economic Council, right? First time that we have this sort of multi-departmental and ministry platform to group together all the related government agencies under the Orange Economic Council. By the way, Orange Economic is, a creative industry, right? And his department, his ministry, will serve as secretariat. This is a big step, right? All this while, we know that digital creative content under MDEC. MDEC under which ministry? Digital Ministry, right? Gobi. Then, by creative venture, under which ministry? Under Information Ministry, Fahmi, right? Then, there's another component I doubt is under Tourism and Culture Ministry. You can see, when you have some issue to deal with, some policy or some complaint to make, you know who to talk to, right? The things similarly applies to Penang. Okay. Unfortunately, all the operations that have except for me here. Okay, so I can be the bad guy here, no issue at all. Okay, so that's why, having said, putting this all in the context here, so what will be our priorities? Okay, the priority is, at least at Penang State, now they're taking cue from the federal level. The Putrajaya has done or trying to do something, which I think is on the right direction. So Penang, having set up the creative industry portfolio since 4 or 5 years ago, I think time is right for Penang actually to do some, I would say institution architect, right? To group this all under one institutions that can assemble all this together, right? Maybe whatever thing that I think we need that to coordinate, okay, each related government department, ministry, stakeholder together. Otherwise, actually, I believe I read somewhere the in place report, right, is a fragmented policy, right? Really fragmented. We don't know who to talk to, who to seek help from. I think this is the first priority I think that we can do, right? Second thing, also as a person on the ground, a simple thing, I think that one is more on public policy. I think maybe that might take some time, to coordinate and set up the things or whatever. But I think I would say there's a one low-hanging fruit, okay, for the government to do. Actually, try not to be, if you cannot facilitate, try not to frustrate. Okay, frustrate the people, the creative workers, creative entrepreneurs on the ground. A good example would be, the billboard signage, right?
Do you know that it's big headache for ordinary business people to apply for license to put up their business signage? Right? You know, I'm not complaining about asking Del Bahasa to wet the Bahasa. That's not good. I think we need to respect and do that. That one I have no complaint at all. Right? What I complain is that now they need you. You know, nowadays business is about branding. Right? You need logos beside your thing. Nowadays, it's that whoever, how to say, they incorporate Sdn Bhd, whatever thing, right? The first thing they do is register the trademark. Right? Do you know that actually now, the local authorities, local government, I don't know since when, that happened to Penang now, is that you need to have the certificate of trademark registration certificate, only they allow you to put up signage. But don't they know that you need 2 years? You know that you need 2 years to get register the trademark? Okay? So on the ground, I think the point here is if you cannot facilitate, please don't frustrate us. It's simple as that. I believe there are more these how to say I might say small matter, but actually it's low-hanging fruit that I believe is within the Penang state government and local authority to do something. It's not difficult, right? It's not difficult. I'm not asking the Penang state government or local authority to pump in billions, to fund the creative industry. Okay, these are just two things that I believe is the priority at this moment. I was talking about more on architecture and policy level. Okay, hope that helped.
Thank you. One thing that I personally found very interesting about PLLACE was the Living Lab approach. It makes things very visible. It processes that are usually quite hidden in creative work. So I wanted to ask Elaine, Venus, and Jong-Seng, did that experience change the way you think about how creative business develop ideas or products?
Okay, I think the Living Lab is a fantastic idea and initiative and a great experimentation in Penang. Because Prof. Jin asked me, have you ever done this before? I was semi-confident in the sense that whether is this even the first Living Lab in the whole country. In fact, my experience, I don't think in KL we have done Living Lab. Maybe Kevin will better be able to elaborate that from his federal level experience. But I think the Living Lab is a fantastic initiative. It should be continued. In fact, from a point of Digital Penang, we kind of want to adopt that concept in our incubator for our startups and the creative industry that we will be launching this year. And Living Lab is going to be one of the key component for our incubators to actually take it out to the market and actually get real feedbacks from the users or customers that they want to engage or industry we want to engage. But of course, we are still working on the right format, and they may not be a standard format because based on the type of technology, based on the type of creative, then we have to repurpose the type of Living Labs. But the important thing is the concept of Living Labs is something that Digital Penang, at least I can say securely, that is something that we will continue to take it forward. And thank you very much to PLLACE and Prof. Jin and team for introducing that concept, and it is something that is very different than we will do for the Penang ecosystem.
I think the Living Lab concept experience to me is really reminds me again, it shouldn't be isolation when it comes to creating art or, even bringing idea to life. So it's also showing the behind the scene and allow dialogue and feedback. Moving on, what I hope to see is if Digital Penang is going to continue with this, we can group it in a more subject or thematic way, because right now, it's the first time, and then we have people from various backgrounds, or even with the Q&A sessions now, we have the question of why isn't, we have a group of USM students or people who are coming from a more community-driven point of community. We have and we can, I believe. So if we can group it, I believe it will be more strategic and effective for
the group of people as well, because they will share the same language, and then eventually how you connect the dot with these different groups, it form a bigger living labs. So that's my sharing.
For my sharing, very thanks to the group for the living lab. That what I can see, they contribute a lot, and Dr. Lai spend the effort, and also Prof and the team. And I think this is a very good insight for me, because this is a new insight that bring in the new idea what you all are doing. If we are working alone, we only know how to grade something and draw something, and it's like appreciate our only. So if we come in this community, we know what is happening outside, especially what Prof have bring in, and what academy and non-academy doing, and that we can know what is happening. Okay, and also the country development and the community, and also and especially what we need to improve for ourselves. So this is a very good engagement, and like you all say, this is a very new idea and concept. So everything start from the new. We allow ourselves to learn and absorb and adapt. So for the grassroots people, like Q&A just now, and also our friends, participants, also have the question. I think they need time to improve. Yeah, so to you.
And that connects quite nicely to another question, because innovation is not just about ideas, but also about who gets to be involved. In the context of Penang Vision 2030, which talks about empowering people, what role should creative industry players have in shaping policies, not just attending programs, but actually influencing directions? Questions to Bjorn and Kevin.
Hello, yeah. That was the censorship board working. I'm glad you mentioned Penang 2030. Here's the secret that I need to confess. I was involved in crafting Penang 2030 at one point. So what I will touch on is in fact not track C, because track C is basically about our society, inclusiveness, women, children, old people. So we won't touch on that. For Penang 2030, what is important is to draw attention to track B, which is all about economy. The first one is of course about manufacturing, semiconductor, agriculture. The last one, I can't remember the specific words we used, but it was to nurture an environment for a creative and niche industry. And one of the goals that Penang 2030 was targeting for that specific pillar was to have 5% contribution of the orange economy into our GDP. Right now, apparently, it's less than 1, which is really, really sad. And again, I don't want to take up too much time. And having mentioned things like Penang 20, just very quickly to allude to what Chong Sing had mentioned earlier, and Papa Joe, you can allude to this. Many years past, we have been involved in, I guess, similar dialogues, and what I'm hoping for, at least for PLLACE in particular, which did not happen with the previous ones, is where's the follow-up? What are the action items? What's going to happen next? Right? Otherwise, it's all talk, and we're going to keep all this in a cabinet somewhere collecting dust. Because personally, I have been involved in, God knows how many policies, RMK 9, 10, 11, 12, ETP, new economic model. The last one was TN50. That was supposed to be a Malaysia 30-year policy. And personally, I do feel that TN50 was arguably the best policy work that I have been involved in. That was at one point where I was reporting to KG when he was the Minister of Youth and Sports. The best simply because all the ideas, all the programs were crowdsourced to the people of Malaysia. It wasn't a KJ thing, it wasn't an UMNO thing, it wasn't a cabinet thing, it wasn't a government thing. All those ideas came from the people. Censorship board working again. I had the distinct pleasure, privilege of editing that document. The challenge, of course, at that point in time was we were looking at a 30-year document. The big challenge was how do you talk about 30 years ahead when you have so many problems to solve today? So I want to bring that back to the now, right? Going back to that question, I know I'm doing this long politician style kind of. Two things. One is, I want to echo what my good friend here has mentioned earlier. As government, yes, you put the policy into effect, but please consult industry before you do any of that, right? Having done that, putting the policy in place, because there has to be policy in place, please step aside. Let the government censorship. Let the private sector and the private talent do what they do best, right? If they don't get along, fine, it's okay. It's good to have competition. When there's no competition, there's monopoly, nothing moves. You want these guys to compete against each other, which would take me to my other half of the coin, which are the practitioners themselves. How do I say this nicely? Oh, darn. Okay. Get over yourselves. See, the most common thing I've heard from a lot of practitioners, regardless of what they do, right? Whether they're artists, musicians, and all that, first thing come from the mouth is, I'm afraid people will copy my work. Hello, who are you? Why in the world would anyone want to copy the work of an app? And this is with all due respect. Usually when people say that, there's no respect. Look at it this way. If you put on a pirate hat, it takes a lot of effort to actually pirate something, right? And I've used this from time to time, especially when we have IP lawyers on stage and you're supposed to play devil's advocate and you throw something out there. Sorry, Paul. And they love to talk about how important, you know, filing for your IP, all that kind of stuff. Then I will throw this wrench in there and say that, why? Because if I go on, say, a forum like Pirate Bay, I think it's still active, I'm not sure, and I cannot find anything on, say, Upin and Ipin or Bobo Boy, should I be happy because my stuff is not pirated? Or should I be sad because nobody wants my stuff? Conversely, I have my own IP called Rimba, right? If I go on Pirate Bay and I find it loaded with my Rimba IP, should I be celebrating? Because personally, I would, and I'll tell you why, right? You chalk this up to a defense and an attack strategy. IP protection, cybersecurity, insurance, all that is defense, right? You have limited resources. You either put some of it into defense or everything into attack. Your promotion, your marketing, your sales and all that. Penang, Chinese businessman, zero defense, 100% attack, right? In terms of defense, why would I be celebrating? Simple. Again, I go back to the fact that it's not easy to pirate something. Hacking, modding and all that requires resources, time, skill sets. If the pirates see my IP worth their time, there is value to them, it means that whatever I've created has value to another market. So rather than looking at the defense and attack strategy, that is the marketing cost that I do not have to pay for. It's simple, it's how you want to look at it, right? Because look at it this way, we're in the heart of Southeast Asia.
you're next to China, you're next to Thailand, you're next to Taiwan. They are the masters of reverse engineering. No matter what you do, if there's value, you can bet that they're going to have a copy of it. And there's nothing you can do about it. But conversely, if I were to say attack the European or the US market, if I get involved in a lawsuit with Disney, hey, why not? Free publicity, then okay lah, go into court, kalah lah. But it's okay, it's free publicity. So going back to what the point that I was making, right? If you're afraid that people is going to copy your stuff, then just sit at home, keep your stuff in a Milo tin somewhere. Don't do it. Look for a 9-to-5 job, be comfortable, treat it as a passion. Because I want to close this by saying, I want to throw out two names. Picasso and Jaden Ryan Lee, right? Personally, I think Jaden Ryan Lee can draw way better than Picasso. Why? Because I'm his father. But Jaden Ryan Lee cannot sell art better than Picasso. It comes down to the economics. If you are unable to turn this into a business, which I want to allude to a point that was made earlier, you need some form of I don't want to say centralized, but some form of a platform to assist, regardless of what sector you're talking about, right? In Penang alone, again, this is backstory. We fought very hard to get the creative portfolio included. Penang is one of 2 states in the country that has that creative portfolio. And we really wanted, please do not park creative with tourism. We did that. And the thing is, when you really look at it on a larger scale, I'm finishing up. How many tourism agencies and offices do we have in Penang alone? Kira lah, kita tak mau cakap. Kreatif berapa? I'm closing with that.
Test that one too. Hello? Can you hear right? Okay, sorry. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so at this session, I'm trying to be more positive. Okay. Okay, I think talking about stakeholder engagement or stakeholder participation, I think is extremely critical, right? For the creative industry development in Penang, particulars. Okay, one thing I would say that Penang Lang, Penang people is famous for one thing. What? Complaining, right? Everything complain. Rain complain, sun complain, everything complain, right? But one thing that I don't think they can complain is that Penang is not short of talents, right? Penang is not short of talents. Okay. In fact, I would go as far as say is that Penang has many cities around the world would like to take years to build and manufacture. What are these attributes? One is worldwide recognition, UNESCO. Hello?
Test.
UNESCO World Heritage Site, right? First. Second is, globally connected diaspora, right? Third is we have tech sector, okay? You know, nowadays, like, even in creative industry, you need tech, okay? Need tech. That's why the hybridized tech with creative industry is the way forward. We have that with us, okay? And then, fourthly, is we have talent pool that are so eager to turn a lot of our creative work into product and services, okay? They just need someone to push them and help them. Okay, these are the things that we have, right? If summarize that, meaning we have 3, I think, in order to move forward, Penang have to write on 3 DNAs, right, that we inside ourselves. One is what I call is tech DNA. Okay, because tech DNA can scale our creative industry. We need that. AI, chips, whatever you name it, we need that, and we have it. Just that need some funding and training to push it up, to really change, right? Second thing is, in the world that's packed with so many competitions, we have that differentiation sector is what we call cultural DNA, right? We are a mixture of everything, okay? And we have, just I mentioned, we have a globally recognized heritage side. That is something that we have that a lot of people don't have, right? And fourth, and the final DNA I would say is that, what's that? It's community DNA, right? I always use this example to illustrate this point is that I think I have lived long enough, okay, to observe some very interesting development that happened to Penang, right? First thing, two very concrete examples, right? One is Miao Hui, right? Our friend is very active in Miao Hui. You know, everyone knows Miao Hui, right? Where it got started? Penang State Government, Federal Tourism Product. Who still remember how it started?
The clan community.
No, it's not clan community. It's a small group of friends, idealists, right? In the mid-90s, they push, they self-organized, they got corporate funding, and get it started. A small group of people, I still remember that. Zhu Zhiqiang, Chen Yaowei passed away already, so Ozhong is still around. A few of them, they got it started, get noticed. Eventually, the Penang State Government helped them and then handed it over to the clans. A small group of idealists spearheaded that. Okay, that's a good example from Penang. Another again is what we now enjoy the fruit is heritage. Again, heritage is not something top down. It's also the NGOs like Penang Heritage Trust, all these activists, they push it. Okay? And then get the Penang State Government then endorse it and apply it and got it. You know, all this what prove right? Because Penang has that very rare cultural DNA, right? Okay, just that we need to push. We don't need to wait for government to do everything. We get pushed, get noticed, and then okay lah, you help us lah. Then okay, we scale it up. That's what we have. Again, in creative industry, we need that, and we need now seriously. Okay, I think he's looking at me.
Okay, we only allow for one question, one burning question now. Anyone who want to grab the opportunity? Can we have another participant, Salian? I know you have already had your chances just now. Could I have another? Yes, please. Thank you. Short and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing. My name is Su Sudara. I am the mother of Vincent Ong that YB mentioned just now, and I'm here to thank you for everything and to learn more about this initiative. I want to share with everyone here that my language art workshop is actually have done everything you guys have mentioned. We just want to know what's next. Okay, so yeah, be brief and short. We can hang out later. But what I want to see is we are focusing on education in integrated art education. So we are helping kids from public schools who been learning what you call this segmented way of learning arts, drawing, music, dance, singing, but they have no idea what to go or how to go on next. So what I would say, how to solve this problem is to come together, like you guys said, to integrate all this, starting from education. So how to make it work, then we have to talk, of course. Okay, so thank you very much, and I would like to share more. If you guys want to know what we have been doing for 12 years, we are organizing the Language Art Festival. You just search Language Art Workshop, then you will see. Then we've been doing this very humbly and quietly. So after Vincent recital last week, I have seen the response overwhelming, and I am very touched, and I want to do something more too for the community. All right, thank you so much for giving me the chance to say something.
Any panelists would like to respond to this? No? Yeah? Okay.
I want to, first of all, I want to congratulate you, Vincent, on the recital. I really wanted to go, but personal family reasons, I'm not participating in any social events for now. But I can't say for the rest. What I can tell you now is, I don't know whether we would be able to work together, I don't know, given that I am drawing salary from the digital ministry. But what I can commit to, and my team members who are present can attest to this, I came up with a structure of how things are going to work as far as my office in the northern region is concerned. Yeah, we're based in Penang, of course, Penang Lang, right? One of my main tracks is in creative and culture. That is one of my main tracks that I intend to drive personally here. So I'm telling you now, at least for MDEC in the northern region, we are committed to driving the creative space, at least from a digital standpoint. So let's talk.
All right, before we close, something quick and fun. One word, just one. How would you describe your experience working with PLLACE? Anyone to start first? One word, yes. One word.
Catalytic. Catalytic. 催化.
One word. Okay, the word is one. One, because all this that we have done is step one. What is step two?
Activating. Yeah. So bringing idea into motion, like one and then two.
I think it's inspiring, right? It's not easy to get UK people to fund project there.
Okay, I was actually going to say the same thing as Kevin. Me and Kevin usually have the same thought and same policies. Whether we are critical of our own organization or we are critical of ourselves, right? So yeah, it's a start.
Thank you so much. I think what really stands out from these discussions is that the creative economy is not just about talent, it's also about systems, collaboration, and continuity. And that's really what PLLACE has been trying to do, and to create something that doesn't just end today. To everyone here, thank you for being part of this journey and for contributing to the conversation. We really hope this is just the beginning of more collaboration and collaborations ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Could the panelists remain on stage? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lai. So now we would like to proceed for tokens of appreciation to our esteemed panelists. May I invite, sorry, Mr. Lim, would you
Yeah, I just want to take this opportunity to make a simple invitation. I know sometimes as artists and this one, right, sometimes it's very difficult for you to find spaces for you to host your activities. Digital Penang, although we are on the top floor, not very on the ground floor, but if you like, we can always sponsor the venue, but you need to manage the venue for your activities. If your activities has a tight angle to it, we are more than happy to provide it for free. So please get back to us on this so that you don't have to, at least we try to elevate one point of your of your challenge. Please come.
All right. Sorry, we have some issues with the token of appreciation, but it's all now settled. Yeah, sorry? Just do on stage lah. Or you don't do on stage huh? Do off stage huh? You okay doing off stage huh? Wait, I gotta ask my boss first. Do off stage or on stage? Quick, lai. Okay, we would like to invite Dr. Athena, Dr. Pitero to present tokens of appreciation. We can start with Mr. Kevin Azizli, Head of Northern Region from the Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation. Okay, next we'd like to invite Mr. Lim, Ms. Lim Chong Seng, Director of Digital Penang. Thank you. We now invite Ms. Venus Kaur, Chief Brand Officer at Masters. Mr. Kaur Bunsu, Partner at Bunsu and Kok Thai. And our final panelist, Ms. Elaine Wong Elin, Entrepreneur and Principal Curator. Okay, thank you to all our panelists for valuable insights, and your contribution today is very much appreciated. As we come to the final segment of today's program, I would like to invite Mr. Lee Kai, Chairman of the Penang State Art Gallery and Advisor for the Penang Art District, to deliver his concluding remarks.
Thank you, Chia Hui, for the mic and for emceeing. Berlayar perahu di Laut Biru, singgah sebentar di Pulau Mutiara. Bersama kita melangkah maju, menyulam ilmu, membina negara. Taking the cue from my students. So as we come to the close of the PLLACE final conference, 12 minutes, I would like to begin with a simple but sincere thank you to the research partners, Manchester Metropolitan University, University of Greenwich, University of Science Malaysia, and Utah. I must thank Professor Dean Chan, because he's a Penangite. Because of him, he brought this team here. And he promised that this will not be the end of it. He's working on another grant to bring more projects to Penang. Let's look forward to that. To our, still work in progress. To our local and project partners, Penang Institute, PWDC, MDAC, MCSA, Digital Penang, Penang Art District, and many others who supported this journey of more than a year. And to the Penang Institute under the leadership of Dr. Uiki Beng for hosting us, for not just being a venue, making ideas work. We are talking about bringing this to the next level, all right? Being a center of thoughts and policy engagement for Penang. Over the course of this conference, and indeed for this entire project, we have heard about methodologies, frameworks, data, findings. But at its heart, PLLACE has been asking a much deeper question. How do you build a creative economy that is not only vibrant, but sustainable, structured, future-facing, and still rooted in place? So Georgetown, Penang is not an abstract case study. It is a living cultural ecosystem, rich in heritage, but it's also full of tensions. We've heard this. Between tradition and innovation, between passion and livelihood, entrepreneurship, between identity and global relevance. And it is within this tension that the creative economy must find its expression and its form. And one of the most important contributions of PLLACE is the introduction of the Living Lab approach into the creative industry. This is not innovation in theory. This is innovation in practice, in real context with real people. YB Lee Kai Lun asking me, is there going to be a Living Lab, after this? We hope so. Money, we need money. Bringing together creative policymakers, researchers, businesses, and communities PLLACE have demonstrated that co-creation is not just an ideal, it is a working method. And importantly, this is still relatively underexplored in a heritage-based creative sector, particularly in Asia. So PLLACE has a place. Penang is not just participating, we are helping to define how this can be done practically. And we have seen through this project's work, identifying real skill gaps, especially in entrepreneurship, in branding, in intellectual property. Delivering targeted training, not in abstraction, but grounded in actual needs. Documenting heritage-based innovation from traditional craft to contemporary adaptations. Testing ideas through the Living Lab with real-time feedback and co-creation, and translating all of this, hopefully, into policy recommendations for long-term ecosystem development. So this multi-level approach, from individual practitioners to policy frameworks, is one of PLLACE's greatest contribution, I see. If I may, I would like to briefly connect this to something I personally observed during the PLLACE field trip to London. Right? One of the places that left a very deep impression on me was Cockpit, an award-winning social enterprise that supports over 175 independent creative businesses. Cockpit provides something very powerful: affordable studio space, business coaching, entrepreneurship coaching, and long-term professional support. In other words, it does not just nurture talent, it builds sustainable careers. And I was so inspired just going visiting 3 of the entrepreneurs, creatives, and artists, and craftsmen. It inspired me, I've learned things. And what struck me most about this is that Cockpit is not a short-term intervention. Right? PLLACE is currently still a short-term intervention, but we want to make it an ecosystem of support. In many ways, what PLLACE has begun here in Penang reflects that same ideal, same philosophy. So bridging the gap between creativity and sustainability, between talent and opportunity, is so important. And so the question for us moving forward is this: how do we translate pilot initiatives like PLLACE into permanent structures? How do we move from project-based support to institutional continuity? This brings me to a point that I earlier raised in this journey, the importance of measurement. And I'm very encouraged that Malaysia has now launched the Cultural and Creative Satellite Account 2024. That sounds a bit foreign, but it basically means that our National Statistics Department have now put figures to the creative industry contribution to the GDP. These are some of the figures I think Prof. Jin Chan have given us some. Creative industry contributes 6.8% of the GDP, 130.7 billion to our national economy. And the sector is growing at 7.1% annually. And this employs over 763,000 people. And export has reached 63 billion ringgit. These are all encouraging figures. And we are happy that we are not using tourism, right, as the benchmark, but the creative economy. And when we have statistics, it is a significant milestone, because what is measured is then recognized. And what is recognized can then be supported, funded, and developed strategically. And we see the federal government thinking about that. We have heard that PMX has said that recently. So, we are also honored to have YB Steven Sim this morning with us, the Minister of Entrepreneurial Cooperative Development, delivering the keynote address. And he's important because I see him, his experience across multiple ministries: human resource, finance, youth, now entrepreneurship. It reflects something critical. The creative economy is not confined to a single policy domain. That's why we need PNMAX to push it. Yeah. It intersects with labor, education, digitalization, trade, and culture. So what we need moving forward is not isolated policies, but coherent cross-sectors strategies. And I believe there is real opportunity for the insights generated by PLLACE to inform us at this national level. And I hear that there's going to be a report, and I think we should send it not only to all the politicians in Penang, city level, state level, and the federal level, the MPs. I think we should send it to all MPs in the country, in PMX especially. So at the same time, the research findings of PLLACE remind us of a few important realities. Creative practitioners are highly skilled, but need stronger business and entrepreneurial capabilities. Heritage-based practices are rich, but requires new pathway for innovation and market access. The ecosystem is vibrant, but it is fragmented. And perhaps more importantly, there is a strong desire to move beyond isolated effort towards collaborative, co-creative system. So this reinforces a key message. The future of creative industries lies in connection between sectors, between disciplines, and between local identity and global networks. As a close, I would like to return to Penang. Penang has always been a place of cycles, growth and decline, attention and neglect. But across these cycles, one thing has remained constant: our creative spirit. Today, that spirit is more diverse, more experimental, more outward-looking than ever before. And what PLLACE has done is to give us something extremely valuable: direction. So let this not be the end of a research project. Let it be the beginning of the next phase. Building a long-term support structure, like the way we saw in Cockpit, strengthening skills, entrepreneurship, and IP awareness, developing a clear and shared vision for Penang's creative industries, advancing data-driven and evidence-based policy, and positioning Penang not just as a heritage city, but as a leading creative city in the region. So, on behalf of the Penang Art District, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to everyone involved in PLLACE. Thank you for your commitment, your ideas, and your belief in this sector. Ultimately, the creative industry is not a luxury, it's a fundamental part of how we build meaningful economies, resilient communities, and the future that people want to be part of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Lika. Before we end the conference, thank you so much for being here with us. We would like to have your attention towards the live sketching that is done by Mr. Maisel, our artist. Feel free to take photos. You can take photos. You can take photo with Mr. Maisel as well. So now, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude today's program, today's conference, we would once again like to thank everyone for being here with us this morning. Today's program reflects not only the outcome of the project, but also the collective effort of researchers, practitioners, and partners working towards strengthening Penang's creative economy. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank all of the distinguished guests, speakers, partners, and participants for being part of today's event. We now invite you to join us for lunch, which will be served just outside the hall. Kindly note that no food is allowed to enter this hall, and we ask that all meals be enjoyed outside. Thank you, and we hope to see you again. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.